Thank you, Ben. It's rather depressing to note that as an Irish woman, there weren't any responses from Ireland up on any of Ben's charts, but I suppose we're all just too depressed to be able to answer any polls. But anyway, there you go. What I'd like to spend a couple of minutes talking to you about is a subject that's very close to my heart, and I know quite a few of you as well, and that's around consumer trust. Because whether we are or we're not in a recession at the moment, certainly people are feeling quite miserable out there, as a lot of Ben's charts showed. And without a shadow of a doubt, what we know from understanding our consumers within Mars is that a lot of people blame the recession and the economic environment on irresponsible behaviour. They don't trust bankers, as we know. They don't trust big businesses. And that's a real dilemma for us in big business. Because for those of us who grew up in the 60s, and particularly when I grew up in Ireland, brands and big brands were a symbol of trust. Whether it was trust of quality, trust of authenticity, or was a symbol of something that you aspired to be. And whether it was Naomi Kidd and the whole no logo generation, but certainly as big businesses have found, we've had to face into this issue head on. What that's meant for us as big business is that there's a new competitive force out there, and we need to face into it with real leadership. We need to ensure that we're transparent about our values, whatever they may be. We need to be authentic about how we communicate it, because as Ben has very eloquently shown us, this is an age of media scrutiny. I'm not too sure I understand everything he was talking about tweeting, etc. But what I can tell you is that when we went through a recent incident, thankfully it was about 2.5 years ago, where we changed a trace ingredient in the Mars bar, we received over 10,000 consumer complaints within 1 hour.
Wow.
And when people said to me at the time, why did you change back? It's because we are a consumer-driven company. Because we have to listen to what our consumers say about us and how we behave. And that scrutiny is becoming even greater. What we're seeing out there is that consumers are dividing companies into perceived heroes and villains. You have to just look back over the past year and think who some of the villains might have been. Some very famous villains with BP and the recent oil crisis, but also Google and the concerns over privacy. When you look at the heroes, actually we've had some very interesting heroes emerge. We have, my personal favourite, I would probably be one of those AB consumers, but Waitrose out there with their Essentials range. We all thought that Waitrose would come under huge pressure from the discounters, but they responded fantastically and absolutely in tune with understanding their consumer base. We've also seen another unlikely hero with Skoda. I don't know how many of you have seen their advertising recently, but what they absolutely are standing for is great consumer quality at great affordable prices. And there are many, many, many examples of that. So what consumer trust is about, as I say, acting with transparency. As a private company, this gives us very personal dilemmas. How public do we become? How actively do we engage with some of those really difficult debates out there? And I see Sally from PepsiCo, who's engaged with some of those with me. As we engage with the government on the responsibility deal, which talks about some of the issues we're facing into about the health of the nation. But if we pretend these debates aren't out there or don't exist, or indeed that we're not part of the problem or can't be part of the solution, then actually we're just putting our head in the sand. And what I'd say to you, just as a thought, is that we often talk about trust or ethics as being a consumer opportunity. Ben showed you the example of P&G, how other companies are capitalising on them. But what I'd say to you is that as institutions, as big businesses, what trust is more about is less about how you go to the consumer when they're watching you, when they're interested in what you have to say. But if we think about things like the environment, which is currently going down in terms of consumers' interest, trust is much more important about what you do when they are not watching. That's when you need to be trustful. That's when you need to act with ethics. And that's when they will ultimately hold you into account. Thank you.